Glad to have you with us today. I'm Lisa Baue, your funeral coach, and I'm here today to talk about a couple of interesting topics. We're getting to that time of year where we start planning for the next year. As hard as and scary as that may sound, we all need to be conscious of what we've done this last year, pat ourselves on the back a little bit, and say, hey, look at all that I accomplished. And maybe we didn't get everything done. That's okay. As a 4-decade owner and CEO, also a funeral director, serving the death care profession, I've learned a great deal about goal setting. Also, I've learned some things that don't work very well. Many of those things have to do with us personally and how we set goals, how we accomplish goals, and even what those goals are. Are they achievable? So, as a coach and consultant in the funeral profession, I do recommend that you take some time this next month to slow down a little bit, to maybe jot a few things down, and to perhaps think about your future and where you really want to be. This is hard to do. Sometimes we like to dream. I have this great little journal, and I'd love to give you a copy of it if you ever want to see it. It's really a place where you can put down not just your dreams, but things that you want to turn into goals. Now, I'm going to warn you, it's empty. There's nothing inside but what you choose to write. I believe it's important to journal. I don't know how many of you do journal. I journal every day. I try to write down a couple of things where I feel grateful for something in my life or someone in my life or something special that perhaps has happened most recently. These are good ways to make us feel better as we start our day. Many times I'll do a little meditation, maybe say a little prayer, have a spiritual moment, or perhaps I'm out walking the puppies in nature, whatever it takes just to slow down and think a little bit more deeply about your day. But now it's time to maybe think about your week, your month, and the year to come. As a funeral coach, I really encourage young people who are transitioning and want to transition into leadership roles to give some thought as to their realistic goals in the future. I also encourage all of you as owners, if you're listening in, and managers, to help others set goals by leading by example. Take your goals and share them with people. Do you do that? Do you go to your staff meetings and say, hey, I've got a couple goals I'd like to share, and I would love for you to also think about the future of what you would like to accomplish as a young leader here in this organization. I believe we have to encourage these young leaders to help them in the future so that they can accomplish the results that they want. We also must listen to them. How are we listening as leaders? How are we empowering them? How are we encouraging them to accomplish results? And for those of you that are leaders, how are you encouraging yourself? Because sometimes self-care is so very important. I was reading an article just recently out of Inc. magazine by Moshe Engelberg. He's a PhD, he's a speaker and an executive coach. He's also author of a wonderful book called The Amari Wave. Well, those of you that might know a little Italian might understand or remember that Amari stands for love. And it is about showing love to others and love to ourselves. So let's not forget that self-care piece as we set our goals. As we move forward this next year, I would like you to think seriously about what you want to accomplish in your future. Do you sit down and make them SMART goals? Do you know what SMART goals are? Well, you can Google it or you can look it up in other sources. But really, a SMART goal is specific. Exactly what do you want to do this next year? It's also measurable. So you can say at the very end of the next quarter or the next few months and set a timeline, which is the T in SMART, to when you'd like to accomplish this goal. Now we all sit back and go, hey, I'd like to lose a few pounds this next year. That's great, but how are you going to get those pounds off? And I've heard some people say, I'd like to lose 60 pounds. I would like to lose 40 pounds or 30 pounds or 15 pounds. Is that realistic? That could be the R in SMART goals. The A is achievable. Is that really something you can do? And if so, how are you going to do that? So if I choose to lose 15 pounds, say, I will set a course for what time I'm going to get up in the morning, when I'm going to exercise, perhaps certain things that I will change in my diet, and exactly what I will be doing that day, that week, and that next month to help myself with the weight loss. Now that's a pretty common goal that most people like to have in their New Year's resolutions or things they'd like to do. We all want to be healthier. We all like to exercise more, get out in nature more, and maybe sleep in a little bit more. And that's pretty tough in funeral service, isn't it? We don't always get a good night's sleep. Many times that phone is ringing. Many times we have to go out and transfer a loved one into our care. Many times our evening is interrupted with children, with things that just happen in our world, with the phone ringing. So it's important for us to have some boundaries when we set these goals. So let's think about that again. What specifically would you like to accomplish? How about something at work? Is there something you would like to do more of or less of? How about working on yourself as a leader? Would you like to grow yourself as a better leader? Would you like to have more self confidence? How about that conversation that perhaps you're thinking about having, but something's holding you back? What is that conversation and how can it help you in your workplace relationships? Make improvements as well as perhaps be open to opportunities that you can have in the future. Something you've always wanted to say to someone in a kind way and in a professional way, but something's holding you back. So, how can you use that as a goal to set for yourself that I will have this conversation by XYZ date? And practice it. Can you practice the conversation? That could be part of your action plans, which the A in SMART goals can be achievable as well as action based. If you don't have any action plans set up in there, how are you ever going to get there? You have to take action for a goal to become a reality. So think about that as well. The R is also relevant to your vision or your idea of where you want to be at the time we're here again next year at the end of the year. Where do you see yourself in the next year? What do you see yourself accomplishing? And what do you see yourself doing more often or less of? Think about that for a minute and write that down. And then the T is time based. Everything has to have a beginning and an end. So, what is your beginning? Is your beginning going to start in January? Or perhaps I'll start that in March or April. Remember, you can't start every one of your goals all at the same time. Well, maybe you can if you're highly ambitious, but think about spreading those out a little bit. Give yourself a break so you can really set on the path to accomplishing them. I think that's very important. You have to love yourself, like the Amari Wave talks about, enough to give yourself a break and be realistic, one of the R's in SMART goals, so that you can accomplish these results. So let's talk a little bit about that. How many of you out there today have a mentor or have a coach? I've had numerous mentors and coaches in my career, and on purpose, I found them. Sometimes they found me, but most of the time, I reached out to find myself someone that I could identify with that could teach me something new. So perhaps in your goals this year, you will set up a goal to have a mentor or to have a coach. It could be somebody in your company, could be someone that's in your community, someone you admire, someone you want to be like someday as you grow older or in your professional career as you develop further. What's wrong with reaching out and just calling them? Perhaps inviting them to lunch and say, hey, could you mentor me? You know, mentorship is becoming very, very popular in today's workplace. Formalized mentorship programs are extremely important. And if you're a business owner or you're a manager and you do not have a mentorship program in your company, I would love for you to think about starting one as you go forward this next year. How will that benefit you? Well, I will tell you, number one is engagement with your employees. Your employees right now are not feeling loved, cared for, or engaged. There are some Gallup statistics that are saying that over 85% of the workforce today is not feeling loved, cared for, or engaged at all. And most of them, the majority of them, are thinking about going elsewhere this next year or within the next 3 months. That's not a good thing. That tells us that there's a crisis in our communities and in the United States, as well as Canada and all over the world, where these young people are really thinking through, is this where I belong? Do I feel well cared for? So, for those of you in management, those of you in leadership that are thinking about what do I want to accomplish this next year, you cannot accomplish anything unless you have engaged employees, unless you have staff members and team members that are really feeling well cared for. So, how do you go about that? Well, it starts by setting a SMART goal. Have you asked them, how engaged are you in the work? How am I doing as a supervisor, as a leader to you? How do I feel about everything that I am accomplishing this year, and what can I do better next year? Could you give me some of that advice? I would really encourage you, as a leader, as a supervisor, to ask your team, how can I do better? How can I improve as your supervisor? What more do you need of me? That's a great goal to have. Now, for those of you that are not in a leadership position in your company at this time, let's say at this time, because I do believe that someday you can be if you truly want to be. What would your goal be with your direct supervisor? Do you feel that they help you become more engaged? Do you feel that they help you feel more cared for in the workplace? Do they ask your opinion of things? Or do they just kind of go by the day and just say, hey, you're doing a great job, high five? Do you have sincere conversations with them on a regular basis? Are they developing you as a young leader, as someone who wants to learn more and have leadership skills as well? If not, perhaps one of your goals is to have that conversation with them, perhaps in the next quarter, so that you can sit down and say, I would like this from you. I need this from you. And could you help me develop further? Now, is this about hands-on development? Is this about online development? If this is about perhaps finding a mentor within your organization or elsewhere, or is this really about teaching you new skills? Regardless of what it is, where is it you are in your current career path, and where would you like to be? You know, you could sit around and wait for people to come to you and say, hey, I'm going to develop you in this area. I'm going to take you out here and teach you how to run and operate that crematory. I'm going to take you out to the cemetery and teach you how to run a backhoe. Oh, yes. Yes, yes. If you want to learn the cemetery business, you better learn how to run a backhoe. Not that you'll do it all the time, but you always want to learn the job of the people that you work with. That's really a lot of fun too. You get to put overalls on, you get your hands in the dirt, you get to set up a tent in a whole graveside or an urn area where someone's being interred. It's really kind of fun to get outside a little bit and work if you're a company that has a cemetery. What about the crematory? Have you actually toured it? Do you know what they do there? Some of you in some states will do all of that together. In some other states, you can't actually own and operate your own crematory. But could you go visit the crematory you're contracted with? Could you see their processes? Could you go learn more? I will tell you, if you sit back and you wait for your supervisor to develop you, you could be waiting a long, long time. And if you ask them to develop you and they don't, your job is to do what? Well, develop yourself. Let's find ways for you to reach out to others and to find new learning in 2023 or 2024 or 2025 or a 3 to 5 year plan. Where do you see yourself in the next 3 years? Start there. Grab a journal, get out there with this journal, and write down some of your SMART goals. Remember, these goals need to be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant to what you're trying to accomplish, and time-based. So if you need some help with them, give me a call, because here at Your Funeral Coach, you can have a 1-hour consultation with me anytime you would like, as long as our schedules work out, and we can be together for an hour just to discover some of the things you'd like to accomplish in your own career and in your own personal life. Until then, I would like to just say to you, best wishes as you go forth and start setting goals. And if I can be of support to you in any way, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I really want to challenge you to change. I want to empower you to grow. And I want to inspire you to greatness. I'm Lisa Baue, your funeral coach. And thanks for joining in today. Happy goal setting, everyone.